How are we doing in this war, in your view? How is Israel faring?
There's a quote by Robert Graves, one of my favorite writers of the First World War, British, who said the British Army was composed of lions led by donkeys. And this is what we have here today. We are losing the war badly, not because of the inadequacy of our soldiers, God bless them all, but because of the stupidity and the cowardice of the high command and our political establishment. We should never have allowed the concept of the hostages to become the number one war, return of the hostages as the number one war aim. That is precisely fighting with the enemies on the enemy's terms. There's a concept in the military profession of concentration of effort. And we originally had that notion when we said our objective is the total destruction of Hamas. So Hamas pulled their ace out of their pocket and said, oh, we have hostages. And then the United States and Europe and our own left wing here, the former anti-judicial reformers, suddenly started mobilizing people to demand a ceasefire and to bring home the hostages first at whatever cost.
This is simply their latest strategy.
Their latest strategy
of those leftists who fear nothing more than a real Jewish state, and whose own self-identification as Jews is basically non-existent. This is simply their latest strategy to bring down that person whom they believe is their arch enemy, namely Netanyahu.
Regardless as to the impact on the state. Right now, before the left, which is taking control of the hostage situation, calls for a ceasefire that will last indefinitely, which means we will lose this war because Hamas will have survived. The tactical officers in command of the fighting in Gaza are demanding that we cut off Khan Yunis, that we drive a multi-divisional columns to the coast, separating Khan Yunis from Rafiah, and that we reoccupy the Philadelphia corridor. Why is this important? Because if we do that, and we dig up and intersect all the tunnels leading from Khan Yunis to Rafiah and then to Egypt, Sinwar, Yemach Shemo, will be trapped like a rat in Khan Yunis. It will also prevent the Americans and the Europeans and everybody else from coming in and inserting their humanitarian aid workers between us and Hamas, preventing us from doing anything. The French have already started it by deploying a field hospital to Khan Yunis. Why? This is Hamas's headquarters. Well, because both they and the Americans don't want us to destroy Hamas. In fact, so our situation, in conclusion, our situation right now is dire, not just because of the inadequacies of our high command, the same people, by the way, that brought us October 7th, but because of the irresolution and the weakness of our own political establishment, our own, quote, war cabinet. Bibi understands very well that he is basically, politically speaking, a dead man walking. And so he will do anything he can to be of use to the Americans to prolong his stay as Prime Minister, Rosh HaMemshala, no matter what that means. Sending people to Qatar Barnea, the head of the Mossad, with the head of the CIA, Burns. Burns is a notorious Sona Israel. He hates us. He hates Jews and he hates Israel. And we're sending our Mossad head to join him in Qatar. Qatar is an enemy of ours. But unfortunately, when we send people like Yossi Cohen to do business with Qatar, to reach an arrangement to secure the hostages, we forget that Yossi Cohen is also a businessman who does business with Qatar and other Gulf states. You don't send a businessman. He has conflicting investments. He has conflicting needs and desires. It's a conflict of interest. You don't send Barnea and you don't send Yossi Cohen to Qatar. You send a general to Qatar who will look at his watch and will tell the Al-Tanis, you have 24 hours to shut Al Jazeera down and to hand us Hania and all the rest of the Hamasniks that are enjoying a multi-billion-dollar lifestyle here, or else. And if they say, or else what? They'll say, enjoy your last night on earth. That's what you do. You don't go and negotiate your humiliation with one of our worst enemies. You think Iran is bad? Qatar is even worse. And we're playing up to them. We have capitulated completely to our enemies, both domestic, foreign, and regional. So we're at a point right now where we could lose this war. We could.
I'm afraid.
And the consequences.
I must agree with you.
The consequences for our deterrence and for the future of the Abraham Accords are now hanging in the balance because of that. So, again, in conclusion, I just want to make it very clear that I have the utmost respect and love and faith for our Chayalim, for our soldiers. They are
without saying.
Magnificent warriors, Jewish warriors, who deserve to be protected and safeguarded so they can defeat our enemies as they wish to do right now.
They are lions being led by lambs.
I just find it to be a tragedy that they are led by people that are not worthy of our army and our people. Unless we have refocused our attention on winning this war and not specifically on recovering the hostages right now, we're going to lose focus and we're going to end up in a ceasefire trap. I care about the hostages, obviously, but they're being used as a weapon right now against us, a very lethal weapon. Clearly, if we were in a situation where we were dictating the terms of release to Hamas, I wouldn't have a problem. But right now, Hamas is dictating the terms to us, and that's not viable. Unless we refocus right now on this key issue of eliminating Hamas, we're going to be losing this war. So the first thing is refocus on the central mission. 2 is to use whatever weapons are appropriate to destroy what's remaining of northern Gaza. And I can get into that in private, but we're not using the appropriate weapons. We're using our soldiers' blood, basically, to go in and accomplish the mission. And we shouldn't. We have weapons. I described 4 of them that we could use. When we have time to build them, that would basically turn the remaining part of Gaza City into rubble. We haven't really turned off the ventilation system. We're supplying fuel, for God's sake, to the enemy. And they're using that for their communications and their ventilation system, to operate their ventilation system. No more of these humanitarian corridors. That's it. No more hidden humanitarian concerns for these people. Second of all, we have to cut Khan Yunis off from Rafiah and Rafiach off from Egypt. The Egyptians may be concerned about this, and we shouldn't care. The main point is all this concern about humanitarian issues and people coming in and delivering aid. It's got to stop. We're at war. We don't feed or fuel or facilitate humanitarian relief to our enemies unless we do that immediately. They're going to get away with it.
Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, deserve a very different caliber of leadership and a very different vision. And we shall speak more about this next time that we meet. In the meantime, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Shalom wa nitzachon.
Amen.